And again, for everybody, it's going to be different. I happen to be energized by learning new things, right? So I spend every day, 7 days a week, really for the past 6 months since I started this, by reading, 20 pages in a new book or listening to a podcast. So that for me, that gets kind of the juices flowing. It actually helps me in my W-2. It helps me in my family life because I learned some, personal things there, and it helps the investing business.
Andrew, welcome to the show today.
Thanks. Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so you're a busy guy. You're a tech guy. You've got a pretty busy job, and yet you were able to build up an impressive portfolio on the side. And one of the objections we always hear, or very frequently, is, my gosh, am I going to be able to do this on the side? Do I have enough time to actually do this, or do I need to be Superman or Superwoman, right? And obviously, that's what I want to talk to you about this show, because I hear this a lot, and I love talking to people, busy people like you, who somehow figure out how to do this super busy job, responsibilities, and then you've got a family, and you got to run some chores every once in a while, and then all of a sudden on the side you build up this portfolio. So I want to know, kind of from you, why did you first get interested in real estate to begin with? Like what was going and what did you start doing? Because very few people, well, more and more now, but typically now people don't wake up and go, oh, they read, the Purple Book, and they go, oh, I know, I got to buy myself a 100+ unit apartment building. That's exactly what Kiyosaki talks about. No, they go, oh no, I need to flip a house, or I need to buy a house, or I need a house hack or something. Yep. Nothing necessarily wrong with that, but I'm curious to see, first of all, why did you start looking at real estate? And then what was your initial strategy?
Yeah, so my story goes way back. I got into the multifamily space way late. I'll admit to that. But my story goes way back. From a young age, I've always been obsessed with anything real estate. I was that kid that loved to play Monopoly. It was my favorite game. And I always thought for a number of years, and it's embarrassing to admit this, that I didn't discover the real purpose behind this until later. But I always thought it was just, brick by brick, single family by single family, maybe a duplex or a townhouse. And I don't think I'm abnormal in that either, but it took me a number of years to find, where the accelerated path was in the multifamily space. But it started really back, out of college, 2007. I started my first single family, became what was called now called a house hack. Nobody was calling it back then. But I was traveling. I was traveling 50 weeks a year, 5 days a week. So I was never home. And I'm like, well, this is a waste to have a space in my house go unutilized. So I thought that was going to be, hey, I'm going to keep repeating this for a number of years. And then, 2008, 2009 happened. I pulled back when I should have been buying, right? Another mistake learned. And then I started down the short-term rental route. So I was like, hey, I love going down the shore and being near the ocean, vacation properties. This is cool. After a few of those, you realize it's a serious capital outlay. And there's really not, aside from appreciation, not a massive amount of cash flow. It's a fun business to operate. You deal with some really friendly people, but the scale would take, even at, two decent incomes, decades, not a number of years to get where you need to be.
Now, were you looking for just additional income on the side, or were you looking for a way out, or what was your motivation there?
Yeah, in the beginning, it wasn't really a way out. It was just more of like, hey, how do I make best use of the money I'm making at my job and not, piss it all away on the fun toys? So let me invest in property, which, is going to appreciate over time. So it wasn't a cash flow. It really wasn't until I learned about multifamily that I could realize this could be an active replacement for income. So that the short-term rental business was great from an appreciation play. But it never got me thinking about, oh, wow, this could be my job someday. I would need, 30, 40, 50 properties and, $250,000 a piece to put down. It takes a while for most people to do that.
So talk a little about your job. And we talked about you have a demanding job. What is your day job? What do you do?
So I spent 20 years in the technology side of the world. I'm a CIO for a medical technology company. So oversee all aspects of actually where we invest our money in software. So a lot of parallels to the investing space and quite frankly, meet a lot of investors through that space too. So yeah, I run an IT organization for about a $750 million company.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. So that keeps you pretty busy. And so you started buying like these little houses here and the short-term rentals here. Talk a little bit about when you made a shift into a multifamily. What have you done since then? Like get us up to speed a little bit.
Yeah, so it was late 2020. I came across a post in Bigger Pockets. And again, I feel like I'm a decade too late, but better late than never, right? Where I saw a story of a syndicator who happens to be local to where I am. I'm like, hey, I know that area. I kind of know this guy and his name. I read, I think it was like 62 pages of his blog. And I'm like, oh my God, how did I miss this? As obsessed as I am with real estate, how is it possible I've ignored this for that long, or I just never came across it? So that got me, that kind of created a spark. It led to reading of maybe 25, 30 books, signed up for a mastermind, went to a bunch of local meetup groups, and it went from a passion to an obsession. And that led to a few short months later, my first partnership as a GP with, a smaller role, but started to scale from there.
I'm going to assume that you work at least 40 hours in your day job, probably more like 50 or 48, right?
Yeah, that's about average. Yeah, correct.
And do you have a family as well?
I do. 2 kids, young kids too.
And at least, and probably at most one wife. And so you have some, you have some demands, on your time. And when you say 15 or 20 minutes in addition to your 40, 50 hours of job and then your family, something's got to give, right? You look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, how's a man doing it? So how are you doing it?
Yeah. So I guess one thing I'm fortunate about is I don't require a lot of sleep. So I use a concept I'm rigorous with and very disciplined with my time blocking, and everybody else in my house sleeps in. So I really take advantage of that 5 to 7 a.m. window, Monday to Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday mornings between, I'd say 7 to 9 a.m.
When do you go to bed?
10. Pretty early, like 10 p.m. probably.
Okay, so you're still getting your 8 hours of sleep. You're just shifting it earlier. So
correct.
That means you're probably you're watching less TV at night.
Yeah.
And then you're getting up before and you're not sleeping in.
Yeah, and I guess I'm lucky that I don't need an alarm clock. I wake up and I'm ready to go. A lot of people aren't morning people, so maybe they do the 9 to 11 p.m. window, right? And that's a lot of my friends are like, how the hell do you do that? To me, my brain shuts down at that point, right?
I'm sure you've talked to people. They're like, I can't believe, Andrew, how you're doing all this stuff. Is it a time management thing that makes you successful? Is it or something else? Or maybe in addition to, like, why are maybe you successful with this? And then some people think they can't be successful. Of course they can be, but they don't think right now that they can't do it.
So I'll be honest, I've been refining this whole thing for the last year and a half since I've gotten serious about it, right? But yeah, time management is one thing. I think second is I use another process called time budgeting, right? Where I take, the 15 hours, how do I want to spend my time? And I'm always auditing myself. And honestly, I catch myself, oh God, why did I spend so much time in A or B? So maybe I'll say I'll spend 5 hours as my cap for finding deals, and 2 or 3 hours on education, and 2 or 3 hours on finding investors. So I've got a budget of where I align with my goals for the year of like, how do I want to break that down? And if I'm spending 10 hours finding deals, I'm supposed to be the capital guy. Like maybe I should rethink how I'm spending my time, what activities I'm doing, right?
How do you budget it? Do you write it down? Is it in your brain? Is it in your calendar?
I do. I write it down. So I started out, like, for example, 2022, I've been refining this process because I kind of just was shooting darts at the wall for, the first 6 months of 2021. I'm like, oh my God, I feel stressed out. And don't get me wrong. I'm probably oversimplifying this, and it's not easy, but you just have to have discipline. So you start out with a goal of, like, let's say I've got 15 hours to use, and you catch yourself spending 25 hours, you feel exhausted. Okay, pause. Am I spending time on the right activities? That's where I like to audit myself maybe monthly and go back and say, oh my God, I spent 3 hours writing a newsletter. Maybe I should get a VA to do that part of things, right? Because it's not a perfect process and there's no magic bullet, but I think it's just staying with it and being willing to adjust and adapt as you see yourself slipping off the track, or have somebody else call you out and do that,
My wife sometimes reminds me that I probably need to come home every once in a while and, be present with the family. How does your wife react to the 2 jobs that you're working right now?
It's a balancing act, and she's the first. I'm thankful to have that partnership. She'll call me out, right? If it's 8 o'clock at night and I'm outside of hey, this is my 7 to 9 p.m. is my time window of my family. I'm supposed to be hanging out, having dinner and playing Monopoly or playing, Operation, whatever. She'll call me out and be like, dude, this is not what we agreed. And often she has to reel me back to reality and say, hey, we agreed, like, this is the sacred window. You're outside of that window. So, and you find blocks of downtime here and there, right? Like I travel sometimes for work. I've got 3 hours at the airport. I can utilize that time. So it's not a hard and fast. It always has to be those blocks, but 90% of the time I try to adhere to that concept. Yeah.
So communicating with your wife or your spouse is super important, getting on the same page. Right. And so I think that's important because sometimes expectations can be different. She's thinking one thing, you're thinking another, but once you agree on something, then you can hold each other accountable. So I like that. What kind of habits or disciplines do you have that help you?
So the one thing that I would tell even my friends that aren't in real estate who are looking just to better their lives is I start every day with the kind of a certain process that I've refined over the last year. And again, for everybody, it's going to be different. I happen to be energized by learning new things, right? So I spend every day, 7 days a week, really for the past 6 months since I started this, by reading, 20 pages in a new book or listening to a podcast. So that for me, that gets kind of the juices flowing. It actually helps me in my W-2. It helps me in my family life because I learned some, personal things there, and it helps the investing business. So for me, that a little bit of caffeine, a nice meal, maybe a little meditation or a 15-minute workout, that gets the juices flowing. And I feel like if it wasn't for that, and I've tried it, when I slip off track, things don't go as planned.
So that's the next thing I was going to get to, actually. So when we all have a plan, and sometimes things fall off track, how do you get back to that? When does it fall off? And then how do you get back to it? Which we all kind of deal with that, right?
Especially holidays, and then you go on vacation, and there's so many reasons.
Traveling.
Yeah, so many reasons to not stick to the plan.
Yeah, there's a lot. I'm a big fitness guru, and I have buddies we work out with 3-4 times a week, or I'll do the Peloton in the morning. There's a lot of parallels between your fitness and physical discipline with your mental and your learning discipline, your business building, whatever it winds up being. So I guess the biggest thing is, if you're not the type of person that can hold yourself accountable and recognize when you're slipping, find somebody else who will call you out on it, right? So accountability groups are really great, either for physical health, mental health, whatever it may, spiritual, whatever it may be. If you're not the type of person, you'll probably know if you are or you're not, that will recognize that coming back vacation, you're not self-motivated. Put yourself in a group that'll call you out on it, right? I mean, that's one way that I've learned that's helpful.